So from these different perspectives, we have some elements of a particular Jewish perspective ready to go. First, Jews brought this voracious appetite for the cultures of Europe and America in all its varieties, high and low culture, a ferocious desire to participate in all aspects of music. Jews absorbed a wide variety of musical styles, European classical, Jewish klezmer. Second, Jews, and this I think is a critical one, Jews had a special ability to see the cultures of Europe and America from the outside, looking in. For hundreds of years, Jews had been in Europe, but not of Europe. Many Jews knew the Christian world better than the Christians because they had that unique perspective of the outsider, seeing sometimes more clearly than the person enmeshed in the culture. And once allowed to participate in that world, they came to it with that special understanding, and they brought an ability to understand connections within the main culture that the people living in that culture did not see. Jews could see connections between and among different peoples, between and among different styles of music. They could bring them together. And in Europe, this was not always seen as a good thing, as we'll see in a minute. Third, and specifically in America, identification with the underclass. It allowed Jewish musicians to be much more sympathetic to, much more understanding of black culture than any other ethnic group, immigrant group. Jewish musicians loved blues and ragtime and the early jazz from the 20s, and they wanted to participate. Many did not have the view common among white musicians that such music was low class, racial in quality, best left to blacks. Now, I've kept Europe in this discussion for a reason. I've tried to outline what European and American Jews might be able to bring to the cultural table. But how about the readiness of the mainstream culture to accept what Jews have to offer? In Europe, this ability to see connections, to add new elements to the national styles, was viewed negatively by many Europeans. Cultural anti-Semites like Richard Wagner recognized, and I think that he recognized it accurately, the special attribute of the newly emancipated Jew, his ability to see the culture from the outside, to absorb and reflect the mainstream culture and combine it with other musical strains, including Jewish, and come up with a new synthesis of ideas. I think the best example in Europe is probably the great symphony composer Gustav Mahler. Takes folk songs, Jewish songs, the classical world, symphonic tradition, popular styles such as the march, the waltz, you name it, he puts it in. And to the anti-Semite, wishing to celebrate the national German, true German folk culture, the real German culture as they saw it, or the French culture, these combinations, these new unities, were not adding something new and interesting. They were injecting the national culture with outside poison, outside Jewish poison. But when we turn to the United States, the Jews who emigrated with similar proclivities, similar understandings, the same desire to absorb the new culture, seeing it from the outside, to combine it with all kinds of styles all around, well, these Jews found a different welcome. Their way of seeing how different strands of music that come from different sources might form a new synthesis, that ability of connections, this was a perfect attitude for a society where diversity itself was fundamental to our nationalism and not a threat to it. Now, I know sometimes the myth of diversity is more honored in the breach, and I appreciate the reality of American history. So I'm not saying that all has always been wonderful here, I understand that. But there has always been, and there was back then, as there is today, a myth, and I mean that in the positive way, of national unity through diversity. That our national unity is based on, it's not in spite of, it's based on our diversity. There's not one national style of American music because we are a diverse people, and each people has a right to claim themselves as an American. Now, of course, not all white Americans totally bought into this national myth of strength and diversity, but the Jews did, and the Jews certainly did, overwhelmingly, and they did so with enormous energy and enormous conviction. It's no accident that a great Jewish American, Emma Lazarus, wrote the words on the Statue of Liberty that really best sum up this national myth of strength through diversity. She imagines the Statue of Liberty as the new Colossus and calls her the Lady of Exiles. and has the statue say, keep ancient lands, your storied pomp, she cries with silent lips. Give me, you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send them, these homeless tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. In America, combining diverse cultural influences into new unities reinforces our most cherished myth that out of diverse peoples from many lands and races, we will forge a new unified people, unified not through race, not through religion, but through a shared belief in the principles of democracy and freedom, and by accepting and valuing our diversity. So, when Jewish musicians forge a new popular style and a new classical style out of diverse strands of many different traditions, they're not seen as undermining national identity the way they were in Europe. They were seen as creating national identity, reinforcing national identity, celebrating national identity, our special national identity.